So what we're here to talk about today is end-user computing simplified, and a little bit about how AWS sort of helps with that. So if I can get a quick show of hands in the room about people that actually know what virtual desktop or desktop as a service is. Quick raise of hands. Okay, good number of people. Keep your hands up in the air if you're actually using virtual desktops or desktop as a service today. Okay, we've got one guy. Wow, okay. There's a lot of education to do today. So what I thought I'd start with is actually discussing why people are actually moving to virtual desktops or desktop as a service in the first place. So there's a number of trends that are actually driving this for us today. One of the key ones that you might have heard about or touted from analysts previously is bring your own device. So why is this actually important for us? Bring your own device not only allows users to bring devices that they're actually comfortable with being productive on, but also allows employers to reduce their costs. They're not having to actually invest in corporate assets for users. What that typically drives is people being able to work outside of the office. So mobile workers, so can I work from a cafe, at the beach, Tanjong Beach maybe, somewhere. But also this helps employers in the sense that they're actually able to drive real estate utilization maximization. So real estate's pretty expensive in Singapore and some other countries as well. So if you're actually only using your office maybe 30 or 40% capacity, maybe we can get that up to 80 or 90% capacity. How can we get more people in that office or shrink the office size down so you're spending less money there? One of the other things we're seeing a growing trend for in the Asian market specifically also is remote workers and contractors. So there's a lot more people actually aren't even coming into an office at all. So they might be working from home or outsourced altogether. And one thing that we're all quite familiar with is reducing budgets. So we're not actually getting a lot more money as an ITC spend for most customers. They actually are asked to reduce their spend. So how do we effectively use the resources that we've got allocated to provide a good end-user experience for our customers? So one of the great tools around that is Amazon Workspaces. So what is Amazon Workspaces? It's a fully managed desktop as a service solution in the cloud. The great thing about Workspaces is we realize that users actually have a bunch of different applications that they need to interact with, typically some corporate data, and then also corporate resources. Using just a web browser to do that sometimes isn't quite effective, but it turns out a desktop's a pretty good way to do that. And if you don't have to manage the resources that provide access to that desktop, so a really fully managed desktop as a service platform like Workspaces, it's a lot easier for customers to start their journey into virtual desktops as well. We support a number of devices already out of the box, so we do support iPads, Android devices, you see the numbers on there, and Chromebooks. So you've got a lot of choice around what kind of devices you can actually deploy out. So use cases. There's a number of things that our customers actually use Workspaces for today. Work from home, which we just sort of discussed. Contract workers is quite a big thing. We've got customers that have tens of thousands of contract workers, and these are seasonal workloads. So sometimes they might have 5,000 contractors in a month, sometimes they might have 10,000 contractors in a month. So typically how a lot of enterprise organizations have solved this is by providing laptops, which aren't always the best solution, typically because you're stuck with that laptop as an organization for the next 3 to 5 years, and it's an asset on your books. So if you're able to actually provide access to these people for the term of their contract, which might only be 6 months or 3 months, that's a huge cost saving for you. Massive cost saving. And there's actually a customer of ours, Johnson & Johnson, which we'll provide a link for from their reInvent talk in 2015, which goes through their journey onto Amazon Workspaces. So you'll be able to learn a little bit about what were the reasons around them moving their contract workloads onto Amazon Workspaces and their journey that they took to get there. We see increasingly a lot of developer workloads coming onto Amazon Workspaces. So being able to support developers from different areas of the globe, whether it's India, from Europe, or in the Asian market in general, but also keeping your resources and your data on-premise. Oh, sorry, on-premise, when I say that, I meant like within region is the right word, should I say. So if you're in Singapore and you need to keep your data in Singapore, we allow you to do that by leveraging a workspace. Another great use case is mergers and acquisitions. Typically, this may take most companies months to do. You have to extend a corporate network out. You might have to ship out physical laptops, and you might actually even have to ship out Gemalto tokens, for example, so people can actually sign on to your corporate network to be productive. Even as Amazon ourselves, we do that. We used to do that. We use that internally today, Amazon Workspaces, to facilitate being able to do mergers and acquisitions in weeks, so integration within weeks rather than months. And we've also got a link to a great reInvent video around how we enable workspaces internally for Amazon. And also we've discussed multiple devices that we can support. So security is really our #1 priority when we look at services, and Amazon Workspaces is no different. So if you think about the service itself, we're not actually storing any data on the devices that we're streaming the sessions out to. The key word there is we're streaming. So we're using PC over IP to stream a Workspace or a Windows 7 experience out to a tablet device or an Android device in general, or maybe even a Chromebook. So but nothing actually gets left on these devices. It actually mitigates risk when you're connecting from public networks. So if you're looking at opening up a new office, or even if you're doing a pop-up store, if you're a retailer, you're able to do that without having to invest in corporate networking either. So you might be able to use a public network to facilitate your corporate information being at a particular place for a short period of time. We use things like multi-factor authentication, and you've seen Gemalto do a talk around what they provide. We're going to be using Duo for a demo that we're going to be doing. And also, we allow people to just authenticate the way that they're used to authenticating. So just using the standard Active Directory username and password that they've always used to sign on to their desktop. I think that's probably a good point to pause and show you a demo, because we want to see this stuff in action. So I want to show VJ signing on to a workspace and showing where to actually get a client from, right, VJ?
Sure, absolutely.
How do you connect a device?
Absolutely. Firstly, can we change to the demo, please? Thank you. Hey, Dave. Firstly, in order to access a workspace, you need to download the client from clients.amazonworkspaces.com. As you saw earlier, we have multiple device types based on your device type. So please download the one appropriately. And for the Mac, which I'm using here, download the client. So once you've downloaded and installed the client, you pretty much log in with the credentials which have been provided to you by your IT administrator, along with the registration code which was provided to you when your user was provisioned. So once in, I'm just going to type my username, and I'm going to sign in. So as I said, Workspaces, as Dave said, we support both hardware and virtual-based MFAs. In this demo, I'm going to use a virtual-based MFA, which is called Duo for this demo. And as you see, it's a live demo on the screen.
If anyone has VJ's phone number, feel free to call him. It'll come up on the screen.
I hope not. So I'm just going to try approve. I'm going to do a third-factor authentication using a Touch ID. But unfortunately, since it did not go through, as you see in the client, is because I typed in my wrong password. Intentionally.
So it's actually a live demo, so the passwords do work, and there is Active Directory in the back end.
I am going to type in the right password now.
Hopefully.
So most of the cases we're used to typing the punch code that you see on your MFA, like your Google Authenticator tool. But here, what I'm going to do is I'm using a push notification by typing the word push, which is actually going to send a push notification to my end device, which is registered to my ID of the phone. As you see, I'm approving it. And once approved,
fingerprint sign-on, pretty cool, right?
Yep. So it's pretty much takes you in, and you pretty much log into the console, and this is pretty much Workspaces. This is as good as your secure, standard desktop operating environment, which you can use on your cloud.
Yeah, great, thanks, VJ.
Yep.
Back to the slides, please. So another thing that's key at Amazon is simple management. So we provide you the ability to either interact with the service via API or use the Amazon console. So you're able to centrally manage how you deploy these workspaces and actually how you actually deploy applications to these workspaces. So nothing changes from that experience perspective on how you actually interact with Amazon. One of the great things about this is we've also created something called Workspace Application Manager, which allows you a flexible way of actually deploying, upgrading, and patching, and also retiring applications that you want to deploy to these workspaces. One of the great things is that that integrates with AD as well, so you're able to actually extend applications that you might have in your corporate network out to the workspaces themselves as well. So one other thing that I really wanted to touch on is where's the service actually available from? So we see Amazon Workspaces available in 6 different places today, and we'd love to get your feedback around where you'd like to see that deployed to next. If you have a specific use case, please come and see VJ and I after the session, and we can talk to you about if it's not available in that region. But today it is available in US East, US West, Ireland, Japan, Singapore, and also in Australia. And we're always looking at where we can deploy that next. I'd like to probably hand over to Vijay again to do a bit of a demo because we want to keep this as interactive as possible. So if we can flick over to the demo again.
Right. How do I access my workspaces, Dave?
It's an interesting question. How do you access your workspace?
All right. In fact, in order to provision your workspace, you firstly need to have some kind of an Active Directory, which is either A, running in the cloud, or running on-prem. So firstly, I log into my Amazon Web Service console using the IAM credentials that you sign on. And for all the good reasons that Sean spoke previously, never use your root credentials. So once you're logged into the console, you would see enterprise applications, which will pretty much take you to the workspaces. Once you click in, this pretty much takes you to the microsite of Workspaces console. As you see, we have multiple options on the left. To launch a workspace, you just click the launch workspace, and then you're tying up to the directory which you're using to. You're federating it. If you're a large enterprise, you would federate it to your directory which you use for your single sign-on. So I have randomly selected a directory, and I create next. And then either I can type my credentials, or I can click on show users. And as you see, I have a list of users, and I'm going to select a user for whom I'm going to provision a workspace. Click next. And then I have a lot of bundles where I can pretty much pick and choose what's the type of the hardware spec that I'm going to use. Bundles are something like are different kind of specs that allows you to choose your operating system and pre-package them with certain kind of applications which you can rapidly provision. For example, you may have your HR team. We may have a set of applications which are specific to their department. You can create a bundle and have them pre-provisioned there. So when you have a new user from HR, you just pick and choose the bundle and then deploy it. Or maybe the same case with finance team as well. You pick and choose. In this case of the demo, I'm choosing a Value Plus bundle. Click next. And as we've been talking a lot about security. Security is the number one priority. So Workspace is as tightly integrated to use with your KMS, where you have an option to integrate encrypt your volumes which are used. So in my case, it's optional. So I would click next, and then I click to launch Workspaces. Please note, as you see on the screen, it takes about 20 minutes to launch a new workspace.
So if you're doing one workspace, 200 workspaces, you're able to provision them fairly quickly, right? So 20 minutes to provision a new desktop without having to purchase infrastructure, build infrastructure, or even build the services that wrap around that. It's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Okay, back to the slides, please. So one of the key things around the service is the pay-as-you-go model. We've discussed a little bit around decreasing budgets, but a lot of our customers struggle with the fact that if they wanted to start their desktop journey, let's say they've got 1,000 or 5,000 desktops that they need to provision, that's millions of dollars worth of infrastructure that needs to be bought on the back end, whether it's servers for actual CPU and memory, or if you're looking at storage. Storage predominantly tends to be a very high cost around that. For a lot of our customers, they're able to do that without any infrastructure upfront investments, and they're able to pay for what they use. So if you do have seasonal workloads, you're able to switch stuff off when it's not being used. And we've seen examples of this already with a lot of our customers where they actually switch stuff off. So we might have them deploying 10,000 workspaces, and in a month they might switch off 500. The first time that happened, we were thinking, oh my God, what's happened? The customers stopped using it. But really, at the end of the day, when we called them and spoke to them, they're like, we're using it for what you sold it to us for, which was the fact that we could have seasonal workloads and we could switch them off when they weren't actually required anymore. Another interesting thing that we've introduced recently was bring your own license. So bring your own license actually lets you leverage your own Microsoft client licensing. So you may have licensing from Microsoft already for Windows 7, and you've got an enterprise agreement in place with software assurance. We're able to leverage that within the AWS cloud. So you can provide us with your Windows 7 image, and we're able to give you a discount on your monthly fee. So $4 discount on the subscription fee. Another great service that we provide out of the box with Workspaces is Amazon WorkDocs. So this is our secure document and collaboration platform, and we give you 50 gig of storage with that when you sign up for a workspace. So that lets you share documents internally and externally if you like, and also supports integration into things like Microsoft Office and other common productivity tools, so you can actually interact with people, do notes and things like that. So rather than me explain that, we'll probably do another demo, and we'll get Vijay to show you how it actually works and how to share a document.
Yep.
So if you flick over to the demo, please.
Right. So, for WorkDocs, one of the things you create is you create a URL, which is pretty much the sign-in which users would log into access to the WorkDocs. This is pretty much like a domain name .awsasp.com/workdocs. So once you've created a WorkDocs link, you pretty much can sign in. It's the same sign-in because it's since federated to the same corporate directory. I'm going to log in with my domain credentials.
So you can really securely access your documents from anywhere, whether it's
Yep.
a web browser or a device.
Absolutely.
We often hear about people wanting to access desktops offline or be productive offline. WorkDocs is actually a great tool for you to be productive offline. So if you are actually jumping onto a plane or have to quickly look at a document, you're able to do that from your phone or your laptop, even offline.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Once you're in, as you see, this is the UI for the WorkDocs. You have the option to navigate, which are self-explanatory. I'm not going to go through them. Or you can pretty much go add a content and, or create a folder, and then pretty much share the documents with your colleagues. So in your case, I'm just going to go add a content. I'm just going to take our deck and then upload it. It's pretty much uploaded. And then if you want to share this document with other users, I'm going to share this to another user, demo 2. Say hi.
So you see options there also around what kind of permissions you actually give to a person that's actually receiving this document. They could be a co-owner of the document, they could be a contributor, or just have view access because you don't want them to touch the document at all, besides giving you some comments on the right-hand side.
And you can also set, if you're racing against a deadline, you can have a deadline set as well. You click OK. Mm-hmm. And so which means to say that you've shared the document with others. So now I'm going to switch over to my phone and log in. So like Workspaces, we do have WorkDocs client based on your Android or iOS device. So you pretty much log in with the user credentials again here. It's okay, guys. Don't worry about the password. So
it's a super secure password, by the way.
Authenticated. Once authenticated, I just pretty much go back to my WorkDocs. This gives me the same documents. If you are a user, you get to see your documents which are uploaded here. Since it's shared with me, then I get to see the document here. End user computing simplified, which is the same topic. And then you can pretty much access it. Look at this. It's the same slides what we're running here. And then you can pretty much also comment saying, I can leave a comment saying, looks good, okay.
And we're away.
And blow away. And then when I come back here, you can pretty much come back to my documents. So for share with me. Awaiting feedback. No, so go back. There you go.
And so we see the comment.
I can see the comment. So it kind of improves employee and development productivity, which makes it more easy for you to collaborate and share document within your organization. Yeah. So back to you, Dave.
Thanks. Back to the slides, please. Another thing that we touched on earlier was applications. I spoke a little bit about Workspace Application Manager and how that can help you deploy applications to Workspaces. The great thing about Workspace Application Manager is it gives you the power to have the same application running in the Workspace with different versions. So if you're some of our enterprise customers, they have multiple versions of Internet Explorer they need to support. And that may be from legacy application standpoint, but they can have Internet Explorer 8, 11, Edge, running within their workspace all at the same time. So they're able to support the different applications that they have straight away. And they also might be applications that you have that are legacy from, I guess, a finance perspective as well, that they can't interact with other platforms that you have on there that you want to segregate. We're able to support that using Workspace Application Manager. The other thing we can do with Workspace Application Manager is streamline patching as well. So if we're having to patch applications and patch the Microsoft operating system itself, we can leverage Workspace Application Manager for that also. Yep. One great thing around this product actually is the thing that I like, is a self-service portal. So if you have thousands of applications that you need to search through, your IT can help you with, by putting descriptions and filters in to find the applications that you need. You can just basically go through and search and subscribe. So it's a very good end-user experience around self-service. So again, rather than me talk about that, I'll hand over to Vijay to show you what it actually looks like and actually already provision an app as well, right? Yep.
Dave, is it fair for us to say that WAM is more kind of streamlines the application delivery and also patches and upgrades and also removes? old legacy applications?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the full life cycle of an application.
All right, awesome. So in order for you to start using WAM, you need to package your applications. The first thing is when you create your package, you would follow the same procedures that you use today to package your applications. So I was lucky enough to have a few packages shared with me by my colleague. And as you see, you have all the applications packaged. Once you have your applications package, once you have your packages, I'm going to create a new application which I'm going to be pushing to my users. In this case, I'm going to select a new application. I'm going to use Putty, which is the SSH tool. I'm going to give a description, category. I'm going to select a category which will be utilities, provided by. You can either type the OEM or ISV if you know. Party, vendor, you can just give it. So
again, all this information can be used by your users to actually find the application quicker, especially if you have a large application portfolio.
And you can also punch in their support details and other other support link and support description for the support. Next, here I can select a package, which is the Putty, which I'm going to be pushing. It's the revision number based on the packaging. Application number, let's say 0.67. Description, Putty 0.67. Licenses, again, you have a choice here to restrict the licenses for all those expensive applications, either by user or by Workspaces as well. So the flexibility is pretty much available. So I'm going to restrict it by, I'm just going to say it by user. And you can pretty much have a max install base as well. So in my case, I'll just say 2. I quickly review it. I look at it. I confirm and upload. Once it's done, this takes a few minutes. So in order to save time, I've already prepackaged a few installation. I'm going to use Adobe. Assuming this is the one that you need to roll out to a user in the workspace, I pretty much select the application, click Assign User, select your directory. You again want to roll this out if it's a department-specific application. You can select the groups and then push it to the groups based on your directory, or select a user if it's going to be an individual app. So I'm going to use Vijay.
It's also, Vijay, we give people the option to make an application mandatory or optional, right?
Yep.
So literally, if you have applications that need to be deployed as soon as the user basically logs on, we can select them as mandatory and they'll be deployed in that way. Or if they're optional, they can go through and search whether they need that or not.
And the great thing is you also have an option to auto-update them. If you're running on a software currency policy, which is N or N-1, which is within the enterprise, you can pretty much use this to do that. I create review, I confirm, I assign, and then it takes a while to get here. So once it's done, I switch back to my workspace, show you, and then we have WAM. So once you see the WAM, you have the option to see what are the packages that are available. And once I have Adobe and Bitwise, I'm going to select Bitwise. I'm going to click Install because it was optional, and hence the choice for me to click as optional. If it was mandatory, it automatically gets pre-provisioned. And as you see, it pretty much gets provisioned here. So this kind of helps you to streamline, automate, use it for your massive deployment across your enterprises in a very simplified way. Now let's say, for example, you have an update and you want to retire this particular application. I pretty much use the same, and then I pretty much just uninstall it. So WAM will then go completely uninstall and including all the registry settings and stuff to make sure it's completely eliminated from your workspace. And as you see here, it just did it quite quickly. So think this as your IT approved or your governance risk compliance approved service catalog for your workspaces, which you can use as a single portal which can be used for your application streamlining management. And that's pretty much it, Dave, from my end.
Back to the slides, please. So a lot of questions that I get asked typically are, what's the difference between an on-premise VDI deployment and Amazon Workspaces? I mean, we touched on a couple of things around being able to deploy quickly. So we know we don't have to purchase infrastructure on-premise, and we can deploy stuff within 20 minutes. One of the key things that a lot of customers talk to me about is, what happens when we need to upgrade the hardware? I mean, you're actually paying Amazon to be able to upgrade the hardware on your behalf, but if that happens, what's the outage look like? What's the downtime for my user? And and they're often surprised by the fact that there isn't actually any downtime. We manage those hardware upgrades on your behalf, and it's seamless. It can be easy as a reboot when we do a hardware upgrade. In the lifetime of the service already, it's been up for about 2 years now, we've actually done a hardware upgrade. So when we launched the service, the standard bundle was 1 vCPU and 3.5 gig of RAM. If you look at that bundle today, it's 2 gig of RAM 2 vCPUs and 4 gig of RAM. And we made that available to the users on a reboot. So there's no outage, there's no downtime. You choose when you want to reboot, and you've got the new hardware offering for yourself. Another great thing is that everything's actually encrypted. So you have the choice of actually using KMS encryption to be able to secure your data so nobody else can actually have a look at it. We're not actually able to see what's in your data and your workspaces either. So that's your responsibility at the end of the day, what's actually happening within those workspaces. And additional workspaces can actually be added within minutes. So if you look at actually being able to deploy to another region, so let's say you're a Singaporean company and you're wanting to expand to the US market, what would you have to do to set up an office typically? I mean, you'd have to think about buying desktops, you'd have to think about setting up a data center, how you'd actually get those documents across to your user. You're able to provision a lot of these services out of the AWS console within a few minutes and have an office up and running with just an internet connection. So quite powerful stuff at the end of the day. I thought it'd be probably worthwhile talking about how this sort of hangs together, because we've discussed the service from a user interaction perspective, but we probably haven't discussed what elements do we typically see within an enterprise. So if you look on the left-hand side over there, I'm not going to run across people taking pictures, but we'll typically see an enterprise customer with Active Directory on-premise. We'll see a radius authentication point. This might be a Gemalto server. And we'll also see corporate servers with file and print services that are actually available to those users. On the right-hand side, you'll see the Amazon offering. So you'll see our service layer at the top, which is the Workspace service itself. And then you'll also see the customer VPC. So this would be your VPC, which Sean has described before, within your AWS account. So when we're looking at the services themselves, we've got an authentication gateway that allows our users to actually authenticate against the service, and we've also got a streaming gateway. And the streaming gateway's job is basically to stream the pixels across to the client device. And then when you see the workspaces themselves, they're actually provisioned within our VPC. A lot of people get confused as to where the workspaces actually sit at the end of the day. So the workspaces have 2 ENIs, which are elastic network interfaces, one for the streaming gateway to communicate with, and one that gets extended into your VPC. So you're able to basically apply the security groups and policies that are actually against your corporate security and governance against those workspaces. So if you don't want them to have access to internet, you can block that. If you don't want them to access particular other VPCs or other services that are actually on your on-premise network, you don't have to do that. What we also see typically deployed is a content filter or a proxy server in between. So it actually controls what goes across onto your private network. So if we look at what an authentication process actually looks like, so what actually happens when a user signs on to a workspace, they'll either connect from your internal network or an external network, and they'll request for authentication against the authentication gateway, which you saw. So what happens there, this is all encrypted, so there's no plain text that's going across anything. It'll go to the authentication session or gateway, and it'll go via an AD connector. So an AD connector really is from my perspective, is a proxy that's available from our directory services catalog, and that basically proxies that request across to an Active Directory on your premise. It'll ask the Active Directory, hey, is VJ the right person? And it'll say, yes, VJ is the right person. Does his fingerprint match that MFA? Yes, it does. So it'll send a token back to that client, and then the client is able to connect using that token to the streaming gateway in the workspace. The important thing to note over here is that PC over IP is secured and encrypted AES 256, so nothing's actually available across the wire to be sniffed or looked at. And when that session is actually going across to that end client, whether it's an iPad device, a Mac device like VJ is using, or a Chromebook, there's nothing that's actually stored on that device. So we're only streaming the pixels that are required to see the application. No data's left on there, so it's always secure whether it's on a corporate network or it's on a public network. Do you have anything to add to that, VJ?
No. Everything is end-to-end encrypted. Yep, you go.
So we saw bundles before. VJ was talking about bundles. There's a couple of different bundles, or 3 different bundles that we have at the moment. A value bundle, a standard bundle, and a performance bundle. I won't read the numbers out to you. You'll get the slides at the end. But but these bundles actually come with Internet Explorer, Firefox, and 7-zip installed. If you are wanting access to Microsoft licensing for Office, we also provide a Plus bundle, and the Plus bundle includes Office Professional, Trend Micro, which is also a partner out there on the floor, and also the Utilities bundle itself. The great thing about these bundles, in Oregon, it starts as little as $25 per month to have access to a value bundle. So quite cheap if you look at the perspective of provisioning a desktop on-premise versus looking at it within the cloud, and that gets you entry into having a desktop. Mm-hmm. So there's a number of resources that we're going to include at the end of this presentation to give you, I guess, a first start into getting Workspaces up and running in your own environment. And we've also included some customer stories there as well to help show you what customers have done with Workspaces and what they've gone through in their journey to get into Amazon Workspaces. Before we say thank you and let you go, I wanted to just make sure that that workspace that VJ provisioned about 20 minutes ago, hopefully, is actually provisioned. So if we want to flick back over to the demo.
Yep.
We'll cross our fingers and make sure it all worked.
There you go. It is available, demo 3.
And it's available.
Yep. Just try to sign in.
Now we're really going to hope that this signs on. And I'm sure you've seen lots of security now today, so we've made sure the demo is completely secure.
Nope. Wrong password. Butterfingers.
And we're hoping it's going to work.
While this is signing on, we also have a health check page where you can pretty much see the status of the health check of the workspaces. So this will, as Dave said, we have workspaces available in 6 regions. Okay, it's signed on. So
yep.
You can pretty much look at the latency and the stuff, and which also gives you an idea of which is the closest region where you can launch your workspace.
So this is a great tool if you're planning on deploying workspaces anywhere else in the world. You can actually sign on to this site or get your customers to sign on to this site, and they'll be able to see where a workspace or where the best performing workspace will be available from a region perspective. And if we're able to just show that workspace up and running, so within less than 20 minutes, we've got a fully provisioned workspace. Pretty cool, right? Back to the slides. So thank you very much for your time. I hope that's been useful. Thanks, VJ, as well.
Thanks Dave. Back to you, Sean.